Morning, y'all. It is Saturday morning, and I thought I'd get a little craft going. Work on the book again some more this morning. I tell you, I think my luck is just I don't know. I had a rough IT week, and I had an unfortunate thing happen, and it happens sometimes, but never really happened to me. But had a little issue with some email on an iMac. Anyway, don't want to talk about that because that is never a good starter for anything, for a happy day, so we won't talk about that. I went outside and a bee landed on my arm, and lo and behold, it did not sting me. So I feel like my luck is getting better. I don't know. Anyway, so we stopped off, we cut, on the last video, we cut all these papers, and I already inked all my edges. And now I'm just putting them in place. I'm feeling really confident with my paper choices now, so I apologize for those painful videos, but they are it is a process video, so I didn't think it was fair to cut out too much. I did cut out some of the agonizing, but I am a perfectionist. Sometimes things don't come easy to me. I don't know, I just have a certain vision in my mind, which I'm sure y'all are the same way. And if it doesn't, I don't know, it has to be the way I envisioned it. So I feel really good. I feel really good about this book. This might even be my favorite book. It was my last book, my hardest book. And I say book, but I really mean signature. Because we got the first two done pretty quickly, pretty easily. The third one was a little bit difficult. And the fourth one seemed to be more painful. I did cover the original sheet that I had on the front. We put this paper on there instead. But I feel really good about this. Loving this little bird. He is so cute. So this paper stack, it is gorgeous, and I still really love it. I just found it a little hard because it didn't have enough, at least I felt like it didn't have enough of just plain pages, without so much busy detail going on, because you really need to have a good mixture of both, I think. But then again, I've seen some people's albums that are just crazy all the way through, but they're just gorgeous. So I guess it just depends on the person who's making the book. If you can work well with all those different patterns and stuff, because sometimes I've seen them just come out really pretty. One particular YouTuber who's not doing YouTube videos anymore, I can't think of her name, Angela, I forget her whole YouTube channel name, but oh my gosh, she just does these incredible mini albums, and she's already retired from them. She was on YouTube for a short time. Venerable, Angela Venerable, I believe that's her name. I'm probably mispronouncing it, but it's V with a, Venerable with a V. And she just does these amazing collage style mini albums. I mean, they're beautiful. She's a jewelry person. I think that's her main interest. But I tell you, she definitely had something in the mini album area. I don't know what happened. She just got bored with it, I guess. Because the next thing I know she's doing a video and she's getting rid of all of her stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? I was just getting interested in your videos. But anyway, it happens, I guess. We crafters, artists, we evolve and we change, and that's just the way it is. Okay, so that is done. Oh, I feel like there should be some applause. Everything is done on these except for the back page, and like I said, we need to figure out our order before we put that back page on. I just want to make sure that everything's lying okay, laying down on the paper okay here. All right, so now I'm going to figure out my order, and we're getting ready to place them in the book itself, but I just want to figure out which is going to go where. So we have this signature, love it, and we have this signature. So we have this green here. I know y'all are going to think I'm a weirdo, but I do like to try to space them out. So we know that those two have similar paper. And then there's the bird paper, which is in here also. So I think what I will do is, you know, this was originally my first page, so I think what we're going to do is, yeah, we're going to put, you know what, since our cover has flowers on it and it's kind of pink, I think we're going to put this on the top, make this the second signature, make this the third signature, and make this the fourth signature. All right. Now hopefully this part's not too painful. Now we got to do the back. Oh, I know, it's so funny, isn't it? And there again, I need to look and see what paper I've got in there, because, I mean, it's okay to duplicate it. It certainly is. And if you duplicate it in the same signature, that is fine too, because what you're doing is just you're carrying it through. You know, you are making the whole book make sense, or the whole signature or whatever. So that's kind of got some pinkish colors in it. So I don't think I'm going to put this here. I think what I'm going to do, since it's originally part of this page, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. And see, there again, that's where you can use, or at least in my thinking, I am no expert by any means, but in my mind of happiness, you know, when I'm happy with something that I have done, I'm just going to trim that edge right there. That's a real rough edge. So I'm going to go ahead and get that off there. And that's supposed to be 8 3/4. So we're going to see if it's perfectly 8 3/4. Just in my, yeah, that worked perfectly. In my mind, where something is perfect, you can definitely lay the same paper on 2 pages that are going to be next, you know, side by side. I think that's fine myself, but so anyway, that first page was very simple. Yay. I don't always have issue, like, there's a lot of paper stacks, like, you know, I'm a big, you probably heard me say before in my other videos, I really like DCWV. I love Graphic 45, but I find that Graphic 45 challenges me on some occasions because, you know, just because making the paper, you know, how do I put this? You know, Graphic 45 has a signature page, and the signature page is just gorgeous. But everybody uses that signature page, so it's really hard to get something that looks kind of unique, right? So, because they only have just a couple, and it depends on the stack. Some Graphic 45 stacks are full of just beautiful images. And they're all beautiful, but they're just, and then sometimes you get paper that looks like it's from a different paper stack in there, you know, so I struggle with Graphic 45 sometimes. No matter how gorgeous the paper is, I find that I have a harder time knowing what looks good next to each other, you know. Whereas Graphic 45, or I'm sorry, DCWV, you get a lot of different images with DCWV, and you get a lot that are just, how do I put it? They're not generic, but they're not so busy, and you can mix them well with their pages that have the focal, and they have a lot of focal pages. So you can, you know, you can make probably 3 mini albums out of it, one DCWV stack, and they all 3 look totally different. So I like that. But it's not, you know, a challenge is not a bad thing. You should be challenged, right? I mean, if you're not challenged, you'll get bored. And then sometimes you get bored when you're challenged. So it's a double-edged sword. Oh yeah, I'm thinking that right there. So yeah, you can, if you're not feeling all the paper and you are struggling, you might have more of a tendency to not finish it. But you just have to forge on, because I guarantee you, once you're done, you're really gonna probably fall in love with what you do. So they challenge you more, so they make you think out of the box more. And sometimes you come up with some really gorgeous, great ideas. So that's perfectly the right length. Yep, so we'll do that there. But anyway, I'm sure y'all know what I'm talking about. I feel like the Tim Holtz paper is, it's more, I'm probably not going to use the right term, but in my mind, it's more of a mixed media paper. It's very collagey, and you can do a lot of really cool things with it on an individual sheet basis. Whereas it might be a little bit harder to put together a mini album, maybe, since the paper is so gorgeous and a lot of it is very collage style. But so that's just my opinion, which for whatever that's worth. Yeah, so DCWV is probably my favorite and my most carefree stack, where it can really just whip through those albums. And you know, My Mind's Eye too. I really like My Mind's Eye. I have not played with Bo Bunny yet. Eyeballing a couple stacks that they have that are new. They're beautiful, beautiful colors. So you'll probably see that on a shopping haul pretty soon. So I don't know about that one. I can't really tell you, as I have primarily been a DCWV girl. So, all right, so we got that one. I'm happy with that. I am happy with that. And oh, we got the pink, and we used some of that. What's on the other side? Okay, so we'll use the newsprint. Oh, let me see what we got here. Yeah, we'll use that right there. That'll be perfect. 8 3/4. So if you got to those paper videos, I probably should have done like a giveaway. I really appreciate you watching them. I tried to warn you in advance, and maybe that's something that is good for you to see, that, you know, that everybody, I would imagine that everybody does that from time to time, that everybody struggles. I mean, there could be like just a few people out there that are just, I mean, maybe everybody is, and maybe I'm just the only one that struggles, but that just know exactly what to do with the paper right away. I mean, I envy that, put it to you that way. I mean, I do have that luck on some occasion, but not always. So you saw how I kind of worked through my challenge there, which my husband's been out of town, and usually he helps me. I know that sounds so silly, but I will ask him. He's very honest, so it's actually a good thing. But I will ask him, does this look good together? And he'll say either no or yes, and he'll even pop by and go, well, that would look really good. He has a lot of great crafty ideas. I mean, he's very talented in that sense too. I mean, he doesn't actually craft. At least I say he does. I always tease him because I was telling one of my friends on YouTube the other day that I tease him and say he crafts because he makes his own lines for his fishing poles. He does surf fishing, and then here we have tidal water fishing here, and he catches like rockfish and that kind of thing. So they use a certain type of hook or line here. It has like two hooks on it, so you put bait in two places. Anyway, so he makes those himself out of fishing line, and he tries to steal my beads for that. And he's always talking me into buying those foam squares and circles and things. He cuts them up and makes them and uses them for floats. But anyway, so that's the only crafting he does like that. All right, so we've got, oh, this is the last page. We can go crazy on that page. Crazy. So I think I'm going to, oh, but you know what, that's, well, no, I think that works perfectly. We're going to use that sheet. Since we haven't used it in the book yet, we are going to go ahead and use that 4 3/4. All right. That's going to kind of cut it in half, but I'm okay with that. I am not I'm not the best person when it comes to preserving paper. I cut what I want. I know that's terrible, and that's why I have so many scraps at home. I'm like miserable as far as scraps are concerned. I have so many scraps. I really need to learn how to cut the paper to where I have, you know, I don't waste it. I don't want to say waste it because I keep it all, but One day I'm going to make greeting cards, I just know it. And I'm going to have all kinds of cool paper to do that with. I pray, I really do, because I'm wasteful and I hate being wasteful. I'm like the least wasteful person, and I tell you, if I waste, like, I would assume hoard it. I know that sounds terrible. I would assume I would rather keep it, and that's terrible because I'm going to be like, you know, 90 years old one day, and there's going to be like one entire room dedicated to paper scraps. And, you know, my family members are going to come in and go, oh my gosh, how do you live in this circumstance? And I would probably just be happy to be surrounded by all my pretty paper. Yep. I have started to throw away the solid cardstock if it's not big enough to make a tag out of. But it's really difficult for me. Anyway, so always make sure your pages are right side up, because I have put them on there backwards before, and that will just ruin your day. Or not really, you just cover it. Or somehow make it look like it's supposed to be upside down, right? All right, I think that looks good. All right, we are coming along. Okay. It's a little tight there on that side, but we'll live with it. It almost seems like, oh well, not a big deal. Okay. Yeah. And if that really bothered you, you see how that's just a little off? If that truly bothered you, like if that was just unacceptable to you, you could take, you know, maybe a deep black marker, or maybe some black ink. You know, I use that archival ink to ink my edges. You could make, I know this sounds weird, but you could make a line here, and just to try to straighten that out, a black line, and to the eye it would be fine. So if that bothered you, that's what you could do. You could just take a dark black pen or something like a Sharpie and just draw not very much, right? You don't want very thick, but just enough to give you that illusion that you have a solid black, nice black seam there or line. It doesn't bother me though. It's on the last page too, so not that the last page is not important, but I'm good with it. I'm happy. All right, so we have that done, and we're going to pull out our book, and I always look at it and decide, make sure my hinges look good, because when you put the paper down, that's it. Make sure you're happy with this, because if you're not, just redo it. I know that sounds terrible, but I can't imagine why you wouldn't be happy with it. So the only thing I could see that would really ruin your day on this is if these hinges weren't straight. But even then, if they're just slightly off, you might not be able to tell. All right, so I internally think of what's going to be my inside and my outside, and I haven't fixed that corner yet, but that's okay, we'll fix it. I'm not in a big rush. I would probably put that on the inside, and my thinking with that is you can always use some of those filigrees, the corner filigrees, to do the corners if it really didn't turn out well and you weren't real happy with it. If it bothered you really badly, you could use those filigrees, you know. But this is the page that they're really going to see when they're looking at the book. So I'm going to make sure that that's perfect, right? We can't always be perfect, but I'm going to make sure that looks like that's a good edge. Okay. All right, and I'm going to take a break from here because I need some coffee, but I'm coming right back, and I'm just going to split the videos because we're about to go into the seam now. We're going to go ahead and place our pages. So when I come back, we'll be working on that. All right, I am back, and I just was digging. I don't have a very large pen stash here, and so I was just looking to see if I had a black marker. But I found one. It's an elegant writer. It's not really what it's supposed to be used for, but it is black. So I'm just going to I don't know if y'all can see that. I'm just going to take it and I'm going to just color it in to the best of my ability there, yeah. You probably want to try to keep it off the paper as much as possible because it could change the color of the paper. But like I said, if it bothers you too much, you know, those filigree corners are gorgeous. And you could even put little doodads in your corners or, you know, there's many things you could do to fix that. So you could even cut corners out of your paper. That'd be really pretty. And if you didn't know how to cut, like say you don't have a fancy punch, I mean you could, here, we'll get a piece of paper just to play with. Let me find a piece of paper that I don't have to keep for any reason. Yeah, so if you wanted to, you could just cut a perfect square. So this is, we'll do one. Sorry, let me get my paper here. We'll do 1 inch. All right. Sorry, I just had a moment where I will do 1.5 inch. Sometimes the measurements on here are a little bit wonky, at least to me. Okay, so we'll do that. 1.5 inch. 1.5 inch. All right, so you have this little 1.5 inch puppy right there. You could, let's see what's better, scissors. We'll do it this way. I don't know if I can cut a perfect round thing. I don't know, we're gonna try. It's not perfect, y'all, but you get my point. You could make a template and do a perfect little corner. And you know, I've never seen anybody do that, so hey. If you have fancy punches, you could punch a really cute image to go there, you know, whatever. So you can figure it out with whatever you already own. You don't have to run out and buy anything. Okay, so that doesn't offend me. I can't really see it. So now the first thing I do is always dry fit. And I have a little thing that I do. So, I don't know. Bend your hinge. Make sure it's pliable. The common issue when you're doing this is that your pages become stiff and they don't bend. So what I do, and I don't know if this is the easiest way or the right way, it's just what I do. I put it on the hinge and then we'll go ahead and open it. And then I put it in the middle of my page. I make sure it's straight on all sides. Make sure it's in the middle, or if you're doing tags on the top, make sure it's down. And usually, if you do it this way, it will bend, usually. So, hopefully. Now here, which you can't really see, maybe you can see. Let me come back over, sorry. You can see it's really tight on the hinge. You don't necessarily want it that tight. So I might pull it out just not even 1/8 of an inch, just a little bit where I can just barely see that hinge underneath. That's just gonna help your page to flip better. And that looks really good to me. So I'm gonna just kind of do a test open. Okay, to the best of your ability there. All right, just make sure that your pages are straight. I hope you can see this, okay. And then what I do is, because you know I'm commitment phobic, and it would be better if you have a sharp tool, which I have, let me see if I can find a sharp tool. Could use a, you know, a not too very sharp kitchen knife or a toothpick or whatever's going to be easiest for you. I'm sure that I've never seen anybody do this before. So just make sure that it's straight. Make sure that you got enough there, because typically how it looks there is how it's going to look when you open the book. All right, so this is our last page. This is our first hinge, okay? And then you want your pocket, you want your, it's got to be this, it's got to be going the right way, so double check that, because Lord knows I've put them on there backwards before. All right, so I'm pretty confident with that. So y'all, I'm sure I've never seen this before, but basically I take my tape off this way. I don't always do that. I mean, sometimes I do it. It just depends on the pattern, what I'm working with. But ideally, I like to, and you know, actually a tweezer might be better. Let's get that, a tweezer. And I might be making it appear more difficult than it actually is. But sometimes I do that. It depends on the page. It depends on the book. It depends on a lot of different things. But I just basically get that tape working. It's up there. And then I pull it out. Just like that. Oh, I think my hinge did come out actually, but that's okay. All right, because I just want to make sure. Okay, that looks good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and seal it. I have a little bit of shiny here, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. Okay. All right, so I'm going to look at it. Make sure that it looks okay. And it's not going all the way down because those hinges are there, but it moves freely. And it looks pretty decent to me. So the next side, and I don't know if this is going to be harder or easier for y'all, but it's just the way that I do it. It's because I don't want to, I've already got paper on my pages, so I want to be especially careful. And maybe that's where and you could even take this and do like this, and that'll loosen up the tape better. And then just pull that tape out. Just like that. So it'll just come right out. And then seal it down. Alright. So I think that looks okay. Alright. I think I'm happy with that. It's never going to be 100% perfect, y'all, so don't stress about it too much. Alright, and then remember to grab from the bottom, because it's commonly where I make my mistakes. And if this takes you a little time to do when you're being so careful with the taping, because that's really, y'all, if you use a good tape, as soon as it touches, it's like adhered. You can, if I have just a single layer page, I would probably just take the tape off and put it in and fit it. But since we're kind of dealing with a different layered type of page, it might make it a little more difficult. All right, so, and I think I am going to be a little tight on the, sorry, it's really hard to tell what you can see and what you can't see. A little tight on the hinge there. You just don't want it to be too stiff, but you know what? If it is stiff, it'll work loose. It'll become loose as you're turning the pages. So I'm going to show you at the end of the video. I'm going to show you a couple albums that I did in the very beginning that normally I wouldn't show anybody, right? But I'm going to show you what happens when you make a mistake, and then you just learn from it, you know. And I'm a perfectionist, so that's why I do this type of a tape thing. Just make sure it's straight, because oftentimes when I make a mistake, that is the mistake that I found, that I got a little bit of shiny, but that's okay. It'd be a problem. It's a little loose on the hinge. I think I may have pressed it down, and it might not be, I might not be able to move it, but we're just going to see. And this is good for you to see, because this could happen. So that's why we don't take both sides of the tape off. And it is coming up. So I'm just going to gently, without ripping my page, I'm just going to gently pull it up. I mean, at this point, it is pretty permanent, but I think I felt a little bit of a, just be gentle, be patient. And what I did is I flipped it over and I could see the tape peeking out of the back. So that's why, one reason why you want to get it as close to the edge as possible. You really need that much tape to adhere the pages, but and you could do your hinges longer if you wanted to. All right, so I think we're okay. I don't see no issues. Okay, got a little tape, a little paper came off there. That's okay. So what I would do at this point, and this is good, right? Don't press it down before you flip it over like I did, and you might be able to get it out. I'm just going to go over it one more time with some more tape. Not a big deal. And honestly, it was probably fine. It is because I am a perfectionist, and I did go down a little far, but that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. I'm going to go down a little tighter on my hinge. All right, make sure you know which side is which. This is the top. This is the top. So we already have our glue off there, but that's okay. What we're going to do is we're just going to slip this in here. We are going to try to not let the paper come in contact with the glue. We're going to try our best. And I'm just being real careful, y'all, so it's really not this difficult. But I'm just being a little careful. And it's really hard to see with this angle, so. Just kind of opening up that seam there. Get it started in there so I'll have a guide. You may have to turn it around. That might be the easiest way. Turn it around and look at it. It's not adhered yet, so I can still kind of manipulate it. A little bit more, but I don't know if it's going to let me. There we go. Just want it to be as straight as I can possibly get it on there. Alright, got it on there. Now I can commit to the other side. And it's a little stiff, but that's okay. Like I said, it will eventually loosen up. And I'm just going to put this down here. Get that tape loosened. And pull this out. Alright. See, that potentially could have been a deal breaker, right? But we stayed calm. And before we adhered both sides down, we fixed it. So you cannot tell. Look. And the only reason I put more tape in there is just so in case that other tape lost some of its tacky. And I like to fold it down just to make sure that it looks still straight. If your hinges are just a little bit off, I have had this happen before. But if your hinges are just a little bit off, it can look perfect this way, but it might not look perfect this way. This is just a little food for thought. Alright, so we're going to do this one. And I went really tight on that hinge. And it's not bad. So, you know, depending on how high your tape is. And like I said, the more you move it, the more the paper is going to become more flexible. And with this particular page, it's just a lot easier to dry fit it before you put it in. Okay, so I'm going to come down pretty tight. I think that'll be fine, and then just make sure that it's lined up with the other one. Go ahead and I'm going to show you one where the hinges are too tight. And you know, it could have been a stack your deck hinge. I can't remember, but we'll look at it and see. Alright, this is giving me a little. There we go. Just pull it like that. Loosen up that tape. Push it down. All right, see that? That bend's fine, and that looks good. So I'm gonna flip it over. And, you know, before you take that other piece of tape out, just make sure your pages are flipped up okay. I'm only speaking to you from experience. I've probably done about 30 of these books. I mean, it really could be more. I don't even know. And like I said, each time they all come out differently. And each book has its set of trials and tribulations. You just can't be worried about it. You just gotta love what you've got when you're done, right? So when you get done and you have it, you're like, oh my God, it's so pretty. It was worth all of that, you know? And then when somebody sees it and they're like, oh my gosh, you made this? Yeah, I made that. All right. They don't really have to know that it was a little bit of a struggle. All right, I'm just gonna line up my page there. Gonna do the same thing. Just make sure that it's pretty straight. That looks good. Okay, and I'm kind of eyeballing this just to make sure that there's the same amount of edge going that way. All right, and your hinge is probably going to have a tendency to want to pop out, but just try to keep one side down or whatever, so when you finally put it together, it works out. And then I'm just taking that and running it along the tape to get it to loosen. See, and that just came out real easily. Alright, so we're just gonna push it down. I didn't check the back, but I don't see very much tape on the back, so I'm okay with that. Yeah, there's a little bit of tape.